But what we have here are a number of women who have applied to be a part of our reorganized, recommitted Women's Commission. And let me first introduce you to the Vice President of the City Council, Sharon Middleton. Stand up.
Yes. I know the councilwoman.
Sharon actually carried the legislation for all of you who are here that helped us to reestablish the Women's Commission. Wow. She's very, very excited. Yes. I committed to her that not only would we refocus the Women's Commission, but there is lots of work for you all to do, and so we do have staff that will support your commission, and so let's give her a big round of applause.
I just want to thank you so much. I can't believe that the day is finally here. We, the mayor, just quickly, the Maryland's Women's Commission had a listening tour, and they approached me on, look, I remember the dates, they approached me on July 17th, 2017, and I agreed to host one of the tours, and that took place on October 23rd of 2017. And in that meeting, about 75 women showed up, and we had just heartfelt discussion on all the issues and needs in the city. And one of the conclusions that we came to was that we needed to reestablish this committee. I immediately met with the mayor, and she was just so enthused and was on board right from the beginning. I just want to say that Mayor Pugh has been a partner since she came on board as mayor, and I think we need to give her a round of applause. And this mission just took off so wonderfully. Just, you know, look at all of you here. We sat down and saw the applications coming in, and we just, you know, were so enthused, and we didn't want to lose any of you. So I am so thankful and happy that you all want to be a part of trying to put the pieces together to help rebuild and revitalize Baltimore with the mayor and her staff and the council president. It takes a team. It takes all of us. So again, Madam Mayor, thank you. It was easy, very easy convincing you. You know, she gets it. She understands. So again, I can't thank you enough.
Thank you. I would be remiss if I did not acknowledge Karen Stokes and her team. I know Poetry is over there, and there are other members of your team that are here as well. They took in all the applications, they screened all the applications, and I love Karen to death because what Karen said was, we've got over 100 applications, Madam Mayor. You only have to appoint 9 or 12 or whatever, board of directors. I said, well, let me just say this to you. She said, how do we choose? I said, we don't. There is so much work to be done, you all. So much work to be done. And I said, anytime women of this city take time out to apply, to be a part of making our city better, then every single person who applies ought to be a part of this commission. That's great. And Allie, where's Allie? Allie's going to be working with you all. I know Karen has really worked to move this forward, but we're going to staff this commission. And more importantly, there's so many different areas, you all. If you think about our young women who need guidance, support, if you think about all the women out there, the homeless, the helpless, the unemployed, the employed, those in need of mentors, incarcerated, there's so many women in need of our support. So I look forward to you all coming together, deciding on the committees, because I'm going to leave that to you all, And then you all will select among yourselves the leadership team. Because in my opinion, everyone who has applied is a leader in this city. And the fact that you've taken this time to do so, we are really grateful. So again, you will get a meeting notices. We will help you all, and we'll take recommendations from you all as it relates to committees and so forth. But we've got a big job to do. I will always remember a conversation I had at a women's college, April, when a young girl asked me, what advice would you give young women? And among the advice I gave was to choose us. Because oftentimes we don't choose us. We don't support us.
That's true.
We don't love us. We don't like us.
Preach.
We don't vote for us. Because if we'd have voted for us, the White House would look a lot different today.
I can't comment on that.
So we thought today, as a part of our Sister Circle reception, I wanted to acknowledge someone who I love and adore. And we have quite a history.
Yes, we
don't
do. We really.
We have.
She knew me before I was born.
Right.
She did.
Not quite. Not quite.
Well, yes. Well, yeah, true.
I worked for her mother.
My late mother. Yes, she did.
I worked for her mother.
When she was that young lady.
When she was that young lady.
Yeah.
I was a student at Morgan State University, and I was her mother's student worker. And it came full circle.
Yes, it did.
Because I hired April.
At WEBB.
When I was vice president of Brunson Communications, and I hired the talented April Ryan.
As a DJ.
As a DJ. And what's so cool is that I've watched her grow, and every chance I get to tell her that her mother would be so proud of her today.
Yeah.
Because she was a proud lady.
She loved you, though, too.
Yes.
She loved everyone.
She did.
She bragged on you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Of course, I brag on you.
Well, thank you.
And I watch, and I know many of you have watched April on television at the White House, and I never forget when they tried to diss her. I called her up, I said, oops, you just got famous.
You did. I was like, oh.
I said, girl, write them books. 'Cause you just got famous. But a talented young woman, and just, I'm just proud of you. So
Thank you so much.
I have this citation for you, and this is for you, April, on behalf of Baltimore. We just want to celebrate you. She's a Morgan State University alumni. Hey, go Morgan.
Yes, thank you. This is lovely. Yes,
And we
thank
also
you.
wanted to present you with the Mayor's Medallion for meritorious service.
Oh. I've got chills. Madam Mayor, this is lovely.
So,
The medallion, I've got a medallion. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
so April, let's girl talk.
Yes. Yes. Okay, before we start the girl talk, let me tell you this. I was like, I don't have a place to park.
You should have heard her. I was like, girl, please.
I was like, I said, she said, come into the cobblestone area. I said, yeah, but the only place to park is where the mayor is. I'm gonna get towed. And she was like, will you just park in that space? I said, I'm gonna get towed. She said, there are cameras watching, you'll be fine. I'm like, okay.
I told her, this ain't the White House.
I just want to do everything in decency and order, you know, because I get in trouble everywhere you go, you know. It's like, oh, April Ryan did this, April Ryan said that. But I've got the mayor's approval, so I'm good.
So let's talk.
Yes.
Let's talk girl talk.
Yes.
You are probably one of the most well-known African-American female journalists, and I say one of the most well-known journalists in this country. You've taken this craft quite seriously. Let's talk a little bit about your journey.
My journey was strange. It was different. I fell into a lot of things. And what does the Bible say? Be ye ready? It is the truth. My journey started with your former boss, my mom. You know, I grew up in that household here in Baltimore City. Baltimore born and bred, and still love the city. I'm always in the city. I I grew up in that household where we had a picture of Kennedy and a picture of King. And if she were alive today, she'd have Michelle and Barack up there
Right,
as well.
absolutely.
Yes. She was a very proud woman. She was very proud of her culture. And she always used to tell me, you know, look for yourself on TV. Watch, you know, when you watch TV, look for you. And she taught me about Black history. She taught me.
I think, you know what, I think every major household had Kennedy and
Yes, yes, yes. I'm letting you know I am you. So, but she also told me when we stopped at a stoplight, you know, a Black man created that stoplight. I'm like, okay, Mommy. Every time it got tired. She used to tell me about Charles Drew. She, you know, if I ate peanuts or peanut butter, she said, you know how many uses there are of a peanut? George Washington carved. I'm like, okay, Mother. She was this woman who educated just by in common conversation, just everyday conversation. And I guess it came from being on the college campus.
on the college campus.
Yeah, my mother had toiled on the college campus for 42 and a half years, and one of her students is the mayor. 42 and a half years until her death. And what was crazy was she enabled the kids, and I guess I was one of those she enabled, because she always believed in pushing kids to their greatness. And I think back, I mean, she used to tell me things like, it's not what they call you, but what you answer to. And she would tell me things like, you know, your enemies will be your footstool. And I tell you right now, all of that comes back in this last year. So I listened to her, and then my dad, I had this dad who was a couch potato. And all he would do is watch the news. You know, he'd go to work and come home, get his little meal. My mother would prepare his meal, and he'd sit there and watch the news. Or listen to WBAL in the morning, and listen to the WSID, WANN, all that stuff, you know, back in the day.
When you watched the news with your parents, I remember when I used to watch the news, and I used to think that the people on the other side of the camera reading the news, I said, God, they're smart. I didn't realize they were reading teleprompter back then.
No, with my father, I would sit there, I'm like, Daddy, he was always listening or watching the news. And I said, Daddy, why are you watching the news? Now, as a kid, I would have been scared out of my wits if I really, really was thinking about what he said. He said, because I want to watch and see when the world comes to an end. And I'm like, what?
Yeah, they believe that.
Yeah, and I'm like, what? And here I am in news because of their passion. And the crazy thing about it, you know, back then we watched those 3 channels. You know, TV would go off at around after Johnny Carson,
Right.
And then you have the noise, white noise. You have the flag come up at 5 or 6 in the morning. And you remember 10 o'clock? Do you know where your children are? So yeah, and I was one of those kids who had to come in when the street light came on. Trust me. And if you didn't, you had the belt. Okay, yeah. Well, I got the belt. I know we're now into political correctness, but I did get the belt, and I'm sure many of you did too. And the switch as well. I was a precocious kid. So anyway, I don't know, in high school, I wanted to do something. I wanted to do something that I felt passionate about. I loved radio, I loved music. So I traveled to Morgan. My mother said, you know, I can get you at WEAA to talk to Ricky McCormick, because he attended church with us. He was on the gospel station. I love music, so that's what started that. And after a while, I said, I want to see if I can get paid for this. So I left EAA and went to WEBB. You hired me with the late Dorothy Brunson.
Yeah, but you know what's interesting? I also was at EAA.
Really?
Yeah, I was actually part of the first anchor team of WEAA with T. Montier.
Really?
We did the news at night.
Was
And
Isis Arbey there?
Kwesi Mfume was our news director.
And Kwesi Mfume was my news director too.
Well,
but
he was my news director.
And he was on his way out though at the time for Congress.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So.
But your mom, I got to tell you about her mother. Her mother always reminded me of my mother. Always well dressed. Always in a dress. Always just immaculate. Very
She was
stylish,
elegant and
very elegant.
nice, the sweetest woman you'd ever
One of those
want.
women who wear gloves and beads and the glass beads.
Wore stockings all the time.
Stockings
That's when
all
I
the
wear
time.
stockings all
Something
the
I
time, and I
hate, by the
shouldn't.
way.
But you know, she passed that down. But you know, and that's why I'm wearing stockings now. It's spring. But anyway, and I got open-toed shoes, still wearing stockings. But anyway, no, but that's what kind of I started there. And I said, there's something more to this. And after a while, because I was doing weekends and I was doing overnights. I mean, in Park Circle, and I remember people would ring the doorbell. Hey, do you really sound like you? Do you really look like you sound? I'm like, ooh, yeah, and I'd have
it gets scary.
And I was there by myself, and this is my boss at night on the weekend.
On the overnight shift.
I know, overnight shift. When you start out, you have to start in the overnight shift, and I did that. But then I had a hunger for something else. News started cropping up, and I said, wow. So I traveled to WBGR, the gospel radio station that used to be here on Charles Street. And then I traveled to Frederick, Maryland, AM/FM combo. Then I came back, came back, did City Cable. Then I traveled to Tennessee, Chattanooga, Al Gore Country. And I was there for only 10 months.
Did you see a lot of women while you were, I mean, because there weren't a lot of women.
Dorothy Brunson. I didn't realize the magnitude of Dorothy Brunson at that time.
No, and I don't know if you all do. Does anybody here remember Dorothy Brunson? Okay.
Brunson Communications.
Dorothy Brunson, I always say, was a woman long before her time. She was the first African-American female to own a television station in this country.
And it was in Philly.
We owned Channel 48 up in Philadelphia. I was her VP. We actually got this UHF station, the largest UHF station on the East Coast, could broadcast from the tip of Maryland all the way up to New York. And because I remember I used to do a talk show there, and people would say, oh, I saw you. And so she was the first African-American female to own a television station, actually ended up owning 9 radio stations in the country. And there's little in the history books about Dorothy Brunson.
And that's the thing that I don't like. You know, we have to remember who we are and remember our history, because everybody's not going to tell it. No. And people who came through Dorothy Brunson, myself, Frank Ski, who else? There was a bunch of people that came through WEBB.
A lot of people.
A lot of people. And that was where we learned, Ty Miller.
Ty Miller.
The sports.
In fact, I talked to Ty Miller not long ago.
Yep.
But Dorothy, I met Dorothy because I also owned the newspaper back then, African American News and World Report. Okay. And that's how we became really affiliated. So through the newspaper.
And she was impressed by you, and you were impressed by her, and we just made it work.
Awesome woman.
Yeah,
awesome woman.
And that's what I'm talking about, people helping people and not being catty. But now looking back, I mean, she was, like you say, she was ahead of her time.
Way.
And so I don't know, so I got the bug around that time, because I said, it's great to spin records and say the time and temp, but I was having the now, this, what is it? That's the way it was. I was having that hunger for news, and I'm talking about Walter Cronkite. So for those of you who are old enough to know, this is before we knew, a newscaster's politics. So it was very interesting. So, and it just kept going, and after V103, I traveled to Washington and did WTOP a little bit. I did a lot of freelance, and then I wound up going into Washington. I've been there for 21 years. And
so what was it like, your first time sitting in that audience with all of those reporters from around the world?
Scared. I was like, oh my gosh, how did I get here? I'm like, I'm not good enough. And you're grandfathered into that situation. A lot of people, I didn't know that they were just as green as I was when they first started. But I just felt like, oh my God, I said, I've got to leave. And my mother, with her wisdom again, I said, and it was like within 2 weeks, I said, I'm quitting, I hate this job. She said, no, you don't. She said, if you quit now, people will think you got fired. You better stay there for 2 years. I've been there 2 years plus. So.
Do you remember the first time you stood up in the White House and asked a question, what that first question was?
Yeah, yes, no. It's in the first book, because I totally forgot. But I remember the first question of the President of the United States. And I remember people telling me, you've got to get him to call you by name. This was Bill Clinton at the time. You've got to get him to call you by name. That's Washington power. I'm like, what is up with this? So I said, okay, I'm listening to the late, great Alma Brown, the widow of Ron Brown, right. the former head of Commerce, Secretary of Commerce, who actually was credited for getting Bill Clinton elected, and he was a black man, head of the Democratic Party, and his wife took me in under her wing. I was like she was my political godmother. And she said it, and then my cousin's wife, former Congressman Ed Towns from New York, his wife Ben's like, you gotta get him to call you by your name. You gotta get, I'm watching, I wanna see, I'm like, why are these women saying this? But that was like gold at Fort Knox. You had to do that. So back then around the White House, we used to be able to walk, we could run into the presidents. This was before 9/11. And then, I mean, I was like a couple weeks in. And then President Clinton was walking down the hallway in the West Wing, eating a soft sourdough pretzel. Hi, how you doing? And I'm like, and I said, hi, sir. I said, whatever's in you, you better speak. I said, hello, sir. And he said, hi. And I said, I'm the press or something. I'm in the press. And he was like, he was getting ready to run away, but he talked. And I said, my name is April Ryan. I said, would you call me by my name? He said, well, what? I said, just call me by my name. and I kept telling him every time I ran into him, will you just call me by my name, sir? And then he told his press secretary, Mike McCurry, why does she keep asking me to call me? So there was one press conference, he didn't call on me. But the next press conference, I believe it was Hosni Mubarak, it was a joint press conference, and he called on me. And I was like, ooh, he called me by my name. And I forgot the question. It's in my first book. But yeah, it was interesting. So that started the process. Just that one thing, running into a president. But you don't run into presidents that much anymore.
No.
This one, some people have, but I choose not to stay up in the West Wing because I am public enemy number one. They put a target on my head, and I'm like, okay, I'll just see you in the briefing room. I won't mess with you, behind the scenes.
So you don't go into the...
Oh, no.
You don't go into the press room?
I go into the press room, but I won't go up to... No, not anymore. If people don't like you, you know this, you smart. People don't like you. What? That's right.
But you know what your mom, I go back
Oops,
to what
there it is. Or
Yeah,
whoops, whatever it is. Yeah.
I go back to what your mom said, your enemies become your footstool. Because I can tell you just in this position, they're always the critics, and I understand that.
And they come after you, I know.
They'll always be there. But one of the things that I always say is that as the mayor of a city, you're everybody's servant.
Yep.
Whether they like you or they don't like you, you're everybody's servant.
And that's important because when you have power like that, some people use power as, ooh, look at me. But power is about serving and service to others and people forget that. That is the biggest thing. And it's true, no. Because you have people who like wanting to give favors to their friends, but it's about helping those, lifting people up.
And that is so real. I tell folks.
It's true. This is a huge platform. Yeah. This is a city that's under harsh glare right now, particularly after Freddie Gray. So yeah, you have the darts after you, but you got to stay. You stand. You're not scared because I saw you out there when you were pulling down those Confederate statues. I said, ooh, look at. I said, is that my friend the mayor? I said, look at you. I said, I'm proud of you. And I was like, I shouldn't be saying it, but I did. I said it. I said it. Now, as a friend, I say it. But as typically, I'm a reporter. We're not supposed to, I'm supposed to be like, look, No, but I mean, we go way back, and I can't deny that, and I will not deny that. So, yes, you are my friend.
But I can tell you that, and I tell folks, I never forget a guy who was just social media, just totally negative, just constantly hammering. And I said, whatever the circumstances are, whatever the situation is, he's still a citizen. He's still someone that, I serve. And this person happened to have really fallen on hard times. And I had a responsibility to see if I could help, and I did. And I think that is the role of any public servant. It's, if you don't use power to lift people up and push your city forward, then you're misusing power. That's right. Because it's when you lift the least of us that we get to move forward together. But, so Sister Friend.
Yes.
So what has been the most challenging part of this career? And wait a minute, let me just put a plug in. If you've not read April Ryan's books, and they are here, please you're missing a treat because it talks about her journey. And it has been quite a journey. But what has been the toughest part of this journey?
Well, speaking of books, I've got another one coming out in September, and
Awesome.
I talk about it, yeah. It's called Under Fire on the Front Lines of the Trump White House. I have never had anything like this. I've never. And I mean, today, if any of you watched that briefing, she called someone in front of me, behind me, all around me, but not me. And it's been going on since the last question I asked about Stormy Daniels. Stormy Daniels isn't going anywhere. It's real. I didn't create it. I did not create that scenario at all. She talked about what happened. I didn't do anything. I just asked the question. But they choose not to call on me, but everybody else can ask the question. I'm not worried about that. I'm not worried about, because you know what? The truth is coming out. The truth is coming out. And you know, you can try to cover it up, do whatever. What's done in the dark comes to the light at some point. And I don't have to be the one asking. But I'm going to say this, though. When you've got situations here in Baltimore, Freddie Gray, that second book, it was born out of our pain, trying to talk to our children about this race issue. And I told, I mean, and it's crazy. In Baltimore, I know everybody. It's crazy. The new police commissioner was my college classmate, another one of my mother's kids. So, I mean, I'm very supportive of Darryl DeSouza. I know him very well, and I'm praying that he can just move the ball forward because Baltimore needs.
Well, let me just say, and every chance I get, I have to say this, that I know that Darryl DeSouza is the right man for this time, but I can tell you that in November, we're, if you all don't know this, we're Bloomberg City. And because we're Bloomberg City, we're one of 32 Bloomberg cities around the world. And as a result, I get to interact with 32 other mayors around the world. Got a call from Michael Bloomberg on Sunday to say, I think you're doing a great job. But what we are forced to do is to think out of the box. And if anybody knows me, I'm thinking 24/7 anyway. And back in October of last year, I said, we got the consent decree done. We're focused on violence reduction. What do we need to do differently? Because the needle was not moving. The needle was not moving. And so I said, I said to Michael Bloomberg, and then I said it to my other 32 mayors, I wonder what it would be like if I took all of my command staff of the police department and all of my department heads, put them all in the same room. Would that make a difference in terms of how they communicate and violence going down in our city? And I can tell you what happened is that we went from 7 to 14 days response to our command staff to 1.5 to 2 days. And violence started dropping in November. Didn't have a conversation, Jill, no conversation with anybody, because 1 month is not enough to measure. Violence went down again in December, didn't have a conversation, not enough to really have a conversation about. Violence went down in January, violence is down in February, violence is down in March. We've been consistently dropping every single month. Violence is down in every single category in this city, every single category. Is it enough? Absolutely not. One death, one killing in the city is one too many.
That's right.
But I will say to you, too many illegal guns on the streets of our city, and I get to watch the videos. You know, I get to see what happens. I got to see the man who got shot on Edmondson Avenue who left 11 children with an illegal gun, who had already been in contact with the criminal justice system 9 to 11 times. Now, we have a criminal justice system that I believe is unjust. But at the same time, we have a criminal justice system that does not rehabilitate those who go inside of the system. And then we got young people on the streets of our city who think it's okay to emanate criminal behavior.
And the summer's coming.
And something's wrong with that. Pants below their waistline, and we have to be bold enough to say it's not acceptable.
And that's the point. And that's, yeah, clap, because that's true. It's not acceptable. And see, and that's exactly what my point is. You know, today, my question was about police-involved shootings. Alton Sterling decision came down, nothing. And then we've got the situation out in California. And then we also have a young man whose mother is still looking for justice, who cried out, "I can't breathe," 11 times. The mother is Gwen Carr, and the son is Eric Garner. and they're still looking for justice. So I'm not advocating, but I'm asking the questions, and when you shut my questions down, there's a whole community that's not getting answers to certain issues. So, you know, you guys saw the thing about the Christmas party. That's no big deal. Who cares about eating a Christmas cookie and taking a picture? The issue is if someone treats you poorly, I'm not going to break bread with you. So I'm not going to go upstairs with you, because I'm going to tell you something. One thing I think about, and I'm sure many of you are mothers or mother figures to young boys and girls. And all I can think about is if I go up there and they get mad at me, they take me somewhere, my kids be standing at the gate, let my mommy out. We want her home. At this point, I have to govern myself in a way that I have to keep my cool at all times. I have gone off. You've seen the Twitter rants, you know, when I was called Miss Piggy, but Miss Piggy is fabulous. They don't, Miss Piggy she's looking for Carmi every day, and I'm not worried about it. So, I mean, I don't have a problem, but you don't joke when somebody, you don't joke, and you're supposed to be a government official, federal government, in charge of a major agency of 2 states, and then you laugh at the fact that I'm getting death threats because I ask questions for a community that's underserved, and you're gonna make a joke about it a couple of times on the Twitter, and then, yeah, I'm gonna respond because I'm a divorced mother of 2 kids by myself, and trust me, I'm a mama bear. You come to my house unannounced to try to do something, oh, you trust me, you're gonna get a good Baltimore drag, a Baltimore City drag. I will not act like a county girl there.
Let me take a moment to acknowledge Shannon Sneed, one of our women members of our Baltimore City Council.
This is true, sister girl. Sister friend, I need to.
So you wrote your first book entitled?
The Presidency in Black and White, my up-close view of 3 presidents and race in America. And then we updated it to include 4 presidents. And that book received a Washington Post bestsellers ranking at number 8. So yes, all of my books have hit number 1 on Amazon though. But I'm waiting for that New York Times. I think this one is going to be the New York Times bestseller.
Well, hey, let's put that up in the air. That's going to happen. New York Times bestseller. We're looking forward to that. So, who's your favorite president? Ooh, that's a real hard question. Ooh, that's so cool. Who's your favorite president?
What'd you say?
We're gonna take some questions.
Okay, I thought you were saying something.
Who's your favorite president?
They're like your children. You can't choose. But I can tell you, and I'm going to be fair, I'm still learning this when I'm praying and hoping that we can forge some kind of professional relationship. I really am hoping that. And I do want to interview this president. And it's important that I interview him because we need to know what he thinks about different subjects that affect us. And that's with anyone. And when I say affect us, people. And then the black and brown community, then the urban community, drilling down. Because when I hear a lot of these interviews, it's North Korea, it's Russia, it's this, it's that. But what about urban America that's still hurting? So when it comes to my favorite president, I don't have one. Each one is unique. Bill Clinton was my first. And George W. Bush was my second. Barack Hussein Obama was my third. But each one is unique. Bill Clinton, we had this great working relationship. He was working on the race initiative, and he wanted to find out what the black reporters were thinking about race because it was kind of stalled because of a thing called Monica Lewinsky scandal. And, but he was trying to get it back on track. And we wanted, the black reporters wanted an OTR, an off the record with him that the white reporters were getting. And so I said, let me leverage. I said, okay, we'll talk to you, but you got to do it this way. We had a soul food dinner with him, and he sat and talked. He was eating garlic fried chicken, chitlins, collard greens, and then later on, a couple years later, during the George Bush administration, he said, that's why I have a heart attack. I was like, you cannot blame me for your heart attack. But I talk about that dinner. That was a historic dinner on issues impacting black America. And race, something that we're dealing with now. I mean, that was 20-some years ago. He was in the forefront Well, he was there are pillars in this nation when it comes to race. Abraham Lincoln, LBJ and John, JFK, and then someone who's not a president, MLK. And then I would say Bill Clinton, not because they considered him the first black president, but because he wanted to talk about the issue, because he knew we were a nation that was browning, that we were going to be majority minority at some point.
Right.
And then, okay, so then we have George W. Bush. We had a great working relationship, even though he didn't seem, I don't know what you viewed him as, but the person that I knew was the one who laid in Michelle Obama's arms, you know, at the museum opening. And in Dallas. That's the George W. Bush I knew. We talked about race. We talked about the overt and subtle racism against Barack Obama when he was running for president. But that's not the man you saw. And then came this quirky man with these ears, skinny, this crazy name. My mother died not getting a chance to see the first black president, and that's one of the things that hurt my heart. But for me to be this little girl who grew up from Baltimore City, to be able to question 4 American presidents, and then have a great working relationship with Barack Hussein Obama, the first black president. I'm not talking about politics, I'm not talking about policy, but to see that marker in time. Each one is different, and I'm hoping to forge a relationship with this president. I don't have one yet. He wants me to get all the Congressional Black Caucus together, and they tell me stop shaking my head. They call me Miss Piggy and whatever else, but I'm still hopeful.
You know, I remember, and we're going to go to the Twitter questions, but I remember being in Birmingham as the national president of the National Black Caucus of State Legislators, and you getting off of Air Force One.
Yeah, Selma. Yeah,
Yes,
that was
Selma,
one of the amazing
Selma,
moments,
Alabama,
yeah.
right.
That was an amazing moment. We were going to Selma, Alabama for the anniversary of Bloody Sunday.
Bloody Sunday.
Yeah, because we had to helo. Because I keep forgetting if it was either Birmingham or Montgomery, but we heloed. We Air Force One came, and then we heloed from Air Force One to Selma.
Right.
Yeah, we heloed from Birmingham to Selma.
Right.
That was an amazing day.
We were in Birmingham and came to Selma. We were escorted from Birmingham to Selma. That was quite an experience.
It was, and that was, and in this book that's here at Mama's Knee, I have the interview that I did with him in the conference room on Air Force One, and I think you need to read it. That book it touches my heart. It makes me cry. Both of my books make me cry at some points because for a time such as this, there's still a lot of work that needs to be done in 2018. And we can't, and I think this is one of the reasons why you guys are here. You can't look to one person, a president of the United States. You gotta look to yourselves. Right. And Barack Obama was right. You are the change that you seek. And I'm gonna give you some examples. Inauguration day, I worked every inauguration day for the last 21 years, but this one, I was able to walk through the crowd easily. But the next day, a few women said, I'm not gonna take this. Let me walk around. They were walking in other countries in Sydney. I'm mad over here in Sydney. I'm mad in London. I'm mad in Baltimore. I'm mad in New York. I'm mad in Lansing. I'm mad in San Francisco. And I'm mad in Washington, D.C. So their anger came together in activism that caused the White House to look. And Sean Spicer, my dear friend, came out in that ill-fitting suit. We had the biggest inauguration that we ever had. And that was a nail, I think, that really started all the other nails to go around the coffin. But because they are watching, and then we have these young people who are, yes, these young people are showing up and showing out and causing people, the NRA, to say something. Causing a former Supreme Court justice who's in the news today talking about we should repeal the Second Amendment. And as I was driving, because I knew I was gonna be a little tardy for the party, but I called MLK3, Martin Luther King III, and we talked, and he was talking about, Dad would be, he would be happy about this. Dad would like this. And it's about activism. You know, you can call it whatever you want. Black Lives Matter, you can call Me Too, you can call these students at Parkland, whatever you want. But it all boils down to activism. And Harry Belafonte told me this, and I'm gonna end this on this. Harry Belafonte told me this in his apartment a few weeks before inauguration. Election day, how many of you remember election night? I was watching the Twitter and the Facebook. Y'all were all in the fetal position. I said, Lord, what is wrong with them? Some people still are in the fetal position. And I'm like, why? So I'm like, I see my friend Chris Darden, former prosecutor, O.J. Simpson trial, and he gets up on social media and even says this to me in an interview. We've given the village idiot the keys to the White House, and he said, but it's time for activism. I said, Chris, you're gonna get in trouble. He's a black Republican. So I go and listen to what our friend Bob Johnson has to say, the founder of BET. He's like, you know, it's a time for us to come together and find common ground. And I said, he's right too. Then I called our friend Kwesi Mfume, and I said, this one's saying this one's saying that. He said, they're right, we're at a crossroads. So I'm still trying to figure out what's going on, and everybody's still in the fetal position crying, like, oh my God, the world's coming to the end. I'm like, what is wrong? People didn't realize it's about you, it's not about them. Because you caused the mayor to do something, you caused the president to do something. And if you sit down, it's not gonna change. So I asked Harry Belafonte, he said, you know, when I was walking with W.E.B. Du Bois and Paul Robeson, you know, when he was a younger man, he said, Du Bois said this to me, he said, this is one of the best times you can be. And I was like, what, why? He said, because when there's great pain, he says, when there's great pain, it's radical activism that effectuates change. And I said, I get it. I get it. But the question now is, who's going to fund the activism? Because resources are important. And I said, will there be consistency and frequency? Because the people who make the most noise for the longest period consistently are the ones who get what they need and want.
Let's go to the...
I call it the Twitter. I love that.
Last year, you made headlines for your spatial reactions during the Sanders briefings. How have you or haven't you had to perfect your poker face during 45 term in office?
I don't have a poker face. What I try to do now, I just keep looking down and I won't look up. I'm just like, I don't mean to be that way, but I'm like, oh my gosh, I've never heard some of the stuff that's come out at that podium before. And I've tried to just be like, just keep my head down. I've not perfected it, and my boss has told me, he said, I've told you, you need a poker face. I've never played poker. I've played spades, I've played I declare war, but I've never done poker. I can't, I'm real, and I keep it real. I don't try to bluff, I'm just like, here it is, and that's the way it is. If you want to play it that way, fine, I'm gone. So that's what I do.
We're going to ask everyone on the Twitter to tweet out April D. Ryan and help her out with her poker face. I'd like to take 2 questions.
Oh boy, she pointed and said, yes, now she's getting up. Hi.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name is Winnie Alexander. I actually work for Humanum at 1701 North Gay Street. I'm also a member of Morning Star, and I think I know that you...
No, I'm not a member.
Okay, but you have attended. My question is, if you had to do it all over again, what would you do differently?
If I had to do it all over again, you know, I took that job when I was young. I was in my 20s, and I didn't know any better. If I knew everything that was in front of me, I don't know if I would have done it. And I definitely, at this age now, I'm 50 years old, I would not do it because I wouldn't have done it because it's a lot. It's taxing. This year I had to go on blood pressure medicine, so I'm like, oh my God, I'm on the lowest dose But, you know, it's like they will wear you out because it's always a constant news churn, and you're trying to be a mom, and you're trying to keep up with the groceries and this and the schoolwork. And then my dad was just put in the hospital yesterday. And yes, I'm that sandwich generation, but I've been at the hospital. And that's, you know, get up 5 a.m., drop the kids off, go run to the hospital, see him, talk with the doctors, go to work, make sure I do something. I had a lunchtime event with Valerie Jarrett, ran from there, ran to the White House, did my job, said, let me get in the car, got in my car at 3:30, just got here, and I'm here. And then when I leave here, I'm gonna go home. Been talking to my kids all day because they text me. Go to the hospital, see my dad, and then go home and love on my kids and just do homework and then go to sleep. No, 10 o'clock, I gotta go on Don Lemon tonight. So, yeah, so if I had it to do over again, I don't know. At this age, no. Maybe at a younger age, I mean, I was young and dumb then, like, oh, that's great, that's glamorous. It's 1% glamour and 99% hard work.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
What I would like to know, I'm Shereen Colbrown, what I would like to know, I don't know the age your children are, but what kinds of dialogue do you have about what goes on in this country with your children? Because given the aura that you give off, I know you speak to them.
Oh my gosh, I do. My children, when we're making breakfast or even at night when they come get in my bed with me and we watch something or just have that alone time to talk, we're watching the news. The news is always on. So my youngest used to be scared of ISIS. And I'm like, baby, she's like, Mommy, are they coming here? Are they here? I said, no, baby, you don't have to worry about that. Because I'm always in the news. And she would get scared. And I'd have to make her aware of what was part of my job, but also keep her safe. But then and say, I'm here, you're good. But then when it comes to what happened with Freddie Gray, I had to let them know, you know, because it was in our backyard. Their schools were shut down early, 11 miles away. I had to run to get them. And that was kind of the impetus of the book. You know, you had me running from the White House to go get my kids, and then another mother who was like in the beauty salon in the chair and saw her son with the mask on and saw the pants. And I mean, it's something about motherhood. She looked at the eyes and she was like, boy. And I said, yes, she saved his life. She saved his life. Now, I'm not a capital punishment person, but she saved that child's life. She saved his life. So anyway, so we talk about those kind of things. My oldest daughter, she said she's very socially active. She is a great writer. I'm like, oh my God, I wish I was a writer like that. She's 15 years old, and she writes poetry. She was at school and she text messaged me. She said, Mommy, can I sign up for the march? I said, tell me about the march. Tell me about the march. What part of the march that you want to sign up for? And I said, yes, sign the petition, you can. And she went to the march. I couldn't go with her because I cannot go as an advocate or something. I had to go as a journalist. And I had to keep those lines separate, those portions separate. But I was proud of her. And I told her I loved her for believing in something and having a conviction to do that at that young age. She wrote and this is the crazy piece, she was out there and I was working at CNN, and I told her, come over when you finish. She went with a church group in Baltimore City, my family church, and they wrote a sign. And it was crazy. The lady who was with them said she was walking with the sign, and MSNBC saw the sign, and the MSNBC wanted to put her on TV Live, and the lady was like, no, no. And I'm like, I said, that would not have played well. I'm on CNN and you on MSNBC. I said, no, 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 no. But her sign was beautiful. And I was just so proud of her. It overwhelmed me. And she said when she got home, because I had to go to New York, after I hugged up on her, loved her in Washington, but I had to go to New York that night to be on set, and I came back home Sunday. But while I was on the train, she said, Mommy, it was the greatest day. She said, I feel like I want to do more. I said, write a poem about it. And I said, it's going to continue. And she found her own way. I didn't tell her, but she is aware. Both of my children are aware of what's going on. And I mean, they asked me, they said, Mommy, you know the mayor, right? I said, yes. They asked me this week, I don't know why. And they, you know, they are like the brightest kids who really have a heart for people and a heart for situations. So I'm just very proud of them, but I can't tell them or direct them in it, but they do it on their own, and that's what I love about them.
Yes,
You can sit. I have Clark's too. My feet hurt too sometimes. Hi. It's a pleasure to meet you. What's your question?
You said that you want to talk to the president.
Yes.
And
I want to interview him.
I see that as so important. That's a big challenge, and you're ready for it.
Yeah.
What would be the first question?
Okay. Okay, here are a couple of things. And see, if I put it out here, because we got cameras going, and I got to be real careful about that. But one question, and I've said this over and over again, even when he was running, what time period in America was great? That's what I want to know. Because, no. Because it's more evident now because they have a different take on history than many of us. And I want to know what period, what time period was America great? Because that will tell you a lot about their thinking and where they're going to make America great. Well, they're saying it's great now. So, and America's always been great. We've got a lot of flaws, a lot of blisters, a lot of pimples, a lot of oozing infections. But we are still great because we are resilient and we know who we are. And we are overcomers, and we are creators. I mean, some of us have been through the worst atrocities, and still we rise.
Yes. So we're going to bring this to a close.
This was fun.
Carolyn Blakely, I just want to acknowledge from the President's office, thank you for being here. And again, let me just say to all of you all, Tonya Miller, thank you as well. And let me just say to all of you all, this is an honor to have you here. And I'm so honored by your presence, but more importantly, I'm honored by the work that you all will do. Baltimore is a city that has great possibilities, but it is how we all work together. And so I am so looking forward to your work. I know that the Vice President of the City Council is, I know my staff is, I know others are, and we are willing to roll up our sleeves and work with you. But let's give April Ryan another big round of applause.